The call from nowhere. I was home alone on a stormy night, just like this one. The rain pounded against the windows, making me feel all cozy and sleepy. I had just settled in with a cup of tea and a good book when my phone rang. I picked it up, expecting it to be my friend or family member calling to check in. But to my surprise, it was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I said, my voice a bit hesitant. There was no response, just silence. I thought it might be a wrong number or a prank call, so I was about to hang up when I heard a faint whisper. "I'm outside." My heart skipped a beat. I looked out the window, but the rain was coming down so hard that I couldn't see anything. I tried to brush it off as a prank, but the voice sent shivers down my spine. "Who is this?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. Again, there was no response, just the sound of rain and then my own voice. "I'm outside." I froze. That was my voice, but I hadn't said that. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. I was plunged into darkness. I tried to call out for help, but my phone had no signal. The whispering started again, this time louder and more urgent. "I'm outside. I'm outside." I knew then that I wasn't alone in the house, and I knew I had to get out of there. I grabbed my bag and ran out into the storm, not stopping until I was blocks away from my house. When the police finally arrived at my house, they found no one inside. But on my front door, in letters dripping with rainwater, was scrawled, "I'm still outside." The lost tape. My friend Rohan had always been fascinated by the supernatural and the occult. One rainy night, he called me over to his place, eager to show me something. As I arrived, he was rummaging through his grandfather's old trunk in the attic. "What's up, man?" I asked, shaking the rain off my jacket. "I found this old VHS tape," Rohan said, holding up a dusty cassette. "It's labeled, 'Do Not Watch.' I think it's some kind of ritual or something." The label did seem ominous, but Rohan's curiosity was contagious. We decided to watch it. As we inserted the tape into the VCR, the TV flickered to life. Static filled the screen, and then a figure appeared. It was an old man with sunken eyes, speaking in a low, monotone voice. The old man began to recite an incantation, his words sending chills down our spines. Suddenly, the camera jerked violently, and the old man's face contorted in a scream. The tape went black. We looked at each other, uneasy. "What was that?" I asked. Rohan shrugged. "Maybe it's just an old ritual or something." But as we continued watching, things took a dark turn. The tape showed strange symbols etched into walls, candles burning with an otherworldly flame, and whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. We realized that this wasn't just some old recording. It was a doorway to something sinister. The TV screen began to distort, and we felt a presence in the room. Suddenly, the tape rewound itself, and the TV turned off. We were plunged into darkness. When the lights flickered back on, Rohan's grandfather stood in the doorway, his eyes black as coal. "You shouldn't have watched that," he said, his voice low and menacing. We tried to run, but the doors were stuck. The old man's eyes seemed to bore into our souls, and then everything went black. When I came to, I was alone in Rohan's room, the VHS tape lying next to me. Rohan was nowhere to be found. I never saw him again. Some say that on rainy nights, you can still hear Rohan's screams and see the old man's face on the TV screen, whispering, "You shouldn't have watched that." The Dollmaker's Revenge. In a small village nestled in the rolling hills of rural India, there lived a mysterious old man known as the Dollmaker. He was famous for creating exquisite dolls that seemed to capture the essence of the villagers. However, the Dollmaker was reclusive, and few had ever seen him smile. One stormy night, a young girl named Leela wandered into the Dollmaker's shop, seeking shelter from the rain. As she waited for the storm to pass, she noticed a peculiar doll with piercing green eyes. Entranced, Leela reached out to touch the doll, but the doll maker appeared out of nowhere, his eyes blazing with anger. "You shouldn't have touched that one," he hissed, his voice like a snake's whisper. Leela fled the shop, but the doll maker's words haunted her. That night, she began to experience strange occurrences. Finding the doll in her room, hearing whispers in her ear, and feeling an unseen presence watching her. As the days passed, Leela's family and friends reported similar experiences. The dolls seemed to be everywhere, their green eyes glowing in the dark. People began to whisper about the doll maker's dark magic. One fateful night, Leela's family awoke to find their house filled with dolls, each one staring at them with cold, dead eyes. The doll maker stood in the doorway, his face twisted in a macabre grin. "You shouldn't have touched what wasn't yours," he whispered, his voice echoing through the house. The villagers banded together, determined to confront the doll maker. But when they reached his shop, they found it empty, except for one doll with green eyes staring back at them. The doll maker was never seen again, but the dolls remained, their eyes glowing in the dark. Some say that on stormy nights, you can still hear the doll maker's whisper, "You shouldn't have touched what wasn't yours." And if you listen closely, you'll hear the soft whisper of the dolls, their green eyes watching, waiting. The last station Rahul boarded the late-night train, exhausted from a long day at work. As he settled into his seat, he noticed the train was almost empty, except for a few passengers scattered across the compartments. The train chugged out of the station, and Rahul closed his eyes, letting the rhythmic motion lull him to sleep. When he woke up, the train was stopped at a station he didn't recognize. The platform was dimly lit, and the station's name, Ravenswood, was shrouded in mist. Rahul checked his ticket, but there was no mention of this station on his route. As he stepped out onto the platform to stretch, he noticed the other passengers had vanished. The train was empty, except for a mysterious woman sitting in his compartment. She beckoned him to return, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. "Where are we?" Rahul asked, feeling a shiver run down his spine. "Ravenswood," she whispered. "The last stop." Rahul's confusion turned to fear as he realized the train seemed to be heading into a realm beyond the ordinary world. The woman's presence was both captivating and unsettling. As the train continued its journey, Rahul encountered strange passengers who boarded and exited at stations that didn't exist on any map. Each one left behind a piece of themselves, a glove, a scarf, a book, and Rahul began to feel like he was unraveling a dark mystery. The woman remained, her presence a constant in the chaos. She spoke in riddles, hinting at a tragedy that had occurred at Ravenswood, and the train's role in ferrying souls to the afterlife. As the train approached its final destination, the landscape outside grew darker, the shadows twisting into macabre shapes. Rahul felt himself being pulled toward the unknown, the woman's eyes burning with an intense, ethereal light. The train screeched to a halt, and the woman vanished. Rahul was left alone in the compartment, surrounded by the remnants of the other passengers. The station sign creaked in the wind. Ravenswood, last stop. Some say that on certain nights, when the mist rolls in, the train still runs, carrying souls to their final destination. And if you're unlucky enough to board, you'll find yourself trapped in the endless journey, with Ravenswood as your ultimate destination.